Hey, I'm Alex Yaros. This is my new horror story. Hope you enjoy it. Subscribe, like, and let me know what you think in the comments.
It was the silence Alex noticed first. Not the kind of silence that soothes, not the hush of snowfall or the lull of dusk. This was a silence that pressed against the windows, as if waiting to be let in. The house stood at the edge of a near-forgotten village, tucked between skeletal birch trees and a thin, crooked road that coiled into the forest like a vein. It was old, the kind of old that clung to the walls and creaked through the beams, sagging under memories no one remembered. Alex stared at it from his car for a long time before he stepped out. The engine ticked in the cold. He felt the heaviness of the sky, the overcast gloom that matched his mood almost too perfectly. A wind passed through the trees, but the house remained still, watching. The email had promised a quiet place, secluded and peaceful, ideal for retreat and recovery. He didn't need peace, not really. What he needed was disappearance. The key worked on the first try. Inside, the air was stale, tinged with something dry and metallic. Not quite mold, not quite dust. It reminded him of antique stores and basements, of things that had been untouched too long. He carried in only what he needed: a suitcase of clothes, his laptop, a single framed photo of a woman with soft brown eyes who no longer called him. He left that face down on the dresser. The house had 2 floors, but he kept to the ground one for the first night. The kitchen was small but functional. The living room had a fireplace, though he had no wood. Upstairs could wait. He didn't explore. Not yet. That night he dreamed of tapping. Not loud, not insistent, just rhythmic, like a child's fingers on glass. When he woke up, the sound was gone, swallowed by the dark. The house around him held its breath. On the 3rd day, Alex ventured upstairs. It was mostly empty. A long hallway stretched forward with doors on either side. Bedrooms, closets, a narrow bathroom. But at the far end, past everything, there was nothing.
No door, just wall. The hallway ended in faded wallpaper and a dead corner. Odd, he thought. The layout didn't make sense. He stood there for a minute, hand against the wall. The wallpaper was cold. He pressed harder, wondering if maybe, just maybe, there had once been something here. But it was solid. He turned and left it behind. That night, he dreamed of the hallway, only this time there was a door, and it was open. Alex began to lose time. He would wake in the armchair by the fireplace with no memory of sitting down. He found his laptop open on pages he didn't remember searching: blueprints, maps, old town registries. When he tried to recall what he'd done the day before, the memory scattered like ash. On the 5th morning, he climbed the stairs again. The hallway was the same, still. Except it wasn't. There was a door now, right where the wall had been. He stopped, throat tight. It was a plain wooden door, old and paint-chipped, with a brass knob that looked freshly polished. No dust on the frame, as if it had always been there. But it hadn't. He knew it hadn't. He tried to tell himself it was a trick of the light, that maybe the house was playing games, settling, warping. Old places did that. But the door was real, tangible. He reached for the knob. The room beyond was not empty. It was a child's bedroom. He stepped in slowly, like trespassing. The floorboards creaked beneath him. Faded wallpaper, dinosaurs in blue and green, peeled at the edges. A small bed with rocket ship sheets sat in the corner, slightly rumpled. Toys were neatly arranged on shelves, books stacked. A red plastic lamp glowed faintly beside the bed. His breath caught. He recognized everything. The spaceship mobile, the chipped toy truck, the stuffed bear with one button eye, a jagged, familiar scar beneath the other. "This can't be," he whispered.
It was his room, from when he was a child, from a house that burned down, from a childhood he barely remembered. He staggered back, eyes wide, mouth dry, reached for the wall. It was there, paper, wood, paint, just as it had been when he was 6. His heart thudded in his chest. He left the room quickly, shutting the door behind him. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he went back. The door was still there. The room hadn't changed. The books had his name written in a child's handwriting. The drawings on the wall were his. Monsters and stars and stick figures with too many teeth. He found a small notebook under the bed. A diary. The first entry was written in the clumsy scrawl of a 6-year-old. "Today I saw her again. Mommy says don't talk to her. But she sings nice. I don't think she's bad. She said I could come play. Mommy got mad. Said if I open the door again, she'll go away forever." Alex froze. This wasn't his. He took the notebook downstairs, heart pounding. He read every page. The handwriting shifted as the entries went on, older, sharper, more desperate. A name appeared, Marina, then another, Mother. He didn't remember writing any of it, but he remembered the bear. He remembered the mobile, and he remembered the door. Only he shouldn't have. The tapping returned that night, louder. This time, it came from the upstairs hallway. He didn't move, just sat in his bed, eyes open in the dark, listening to the knock, knock, knock. Then silence. Then a whisper. "Come play, Alex." Alex avoided the upstairs for 2 days. He lived on the ground floor, cooked bland food, and pretended the door wasn't there. But it was, always, quietly waiting at the end of the hallway like a closed mouth, ready to whisper. Every night he heard tapping, every night a faint voice. "Come play, Alex." And then, on the 3rd day, the diary changed. He found it open on the kitchen table, though he hadn't touched it. A new entry had appeared. "She asked me to draw her today. Mommy said not to. Mommy cried. But I drew her anyway. Her eyes are too many now. I think I made her wrong." His skin crawled. The page was still damp. The ink smeared slightly, like tears had touched it. He turned the notebook over in his hands, but it was just paper, just words. But they felt true. That night, he couldn't stop himself. The door upstairs called to him, not aloud, but with a pressure, a pulling at the ribs, like a memory half-remembered, or a tune you can't get out of your head. He climbed the stairs slowly, feet dragging, and stood before the door. The brass knob gleamed faintly, untouched by dust. He opened it. The room was darker now, same dinosaurs on the wall, same little bed. But the glow of the red lamp was gone. The mobile above the bed hung limp, no longer spinning. The air was colder.
He stepped inside. The bear was missing. The books had changed, the covers warped, titles unreadable, pages full of dark scribbles. And the mirror. There was a mirror now. Framed in cracked wood, its surface was fogged over, like breath had stained it. As he moved closer, it began to clear. He saw himself, but not quite. His reflection was younger, maybe 10 years old, wearing a striped sweater he remembered from a photo, one that burned in the fire when he was 9. The boy in the mirror looked scared. His lips moved, but there was no sound. Alex reached out. The boy did not. The moment shattered like glass. The mirror cracked, spiderwebbing across the surface, and the light in the room flickered violently. He turned, heart pounding. The bed was no longer empty. A small shape sat beneath the blankets, unmoving. Alex took a step back, then another. He turned and fled, slamming the door behind him, chest heaving. Downstairs, everything was still. He slept on the couch, lights on, the diary locked in the drawer. The next morning, he received a message, a knock on the door. An old woman stood on the porch, bundled in layers, her face lined with time and wind. "Mornin'," she said cautiously. "Didn't expect anyone to take the old place?" Alex nodded slowly. "I just needed space." She stared past him, into the house. "You seen the boy yet?" she asked. He froze. "What?" She didn't blink. "The boy. The one who screams at night." I haven't heard anything." She frowned. "Strange. Usually starts right away." Alex closed the door before she could say more. That night, the diary was open again. "She said I could leave if I let her in. I opened the window. She smiled. Her teeth are too long. I think she likes it when I bleed." He wanted to burn the damn thing. Instead, he sat by the fire, watching the mirror above the mantel, the one that had been there all along, waiting for it to fog over. It did. The hallway grew darker each time he approached the room. The door felt heavier, the air colder. Shadows moved faster than they should. Inside, the bed was empty again, but the bear was back, torn at the seams. A child's drawing lay beside it, stick figures, one small, one large. The small one was crossed out in red. Above them, in a child's handwriting, "She said it's my turn to be the door." Alex began to lose track of days. Sometimes he'd wake and find mud on his shoes, scratches on his hands, the fridge left open, the taps running. Once he found the bathtub full, cold water, and hair floating on the surface. He didn't remember running a bath. He tried to leave, packed his bag, grabbed his keys, drove for 20 minutes before realizing he was right back in front of the house. Tried again, and again, always back. The forest twisted, the roads repeated, the house refused to let go. He called his sister. No answer. Alex sat on the cold floor for hours. That night, the diary changed again. It was waiting on his pillow. The entry read, "Mommy locked me in the attic again. She said it's for my safety, but I heard her talking to it.
the thing in the mirror. She said, "Just one more time." I think she lied. She always lies. Alex's hand trembled. He climbed the stairs. The door to the room opened without protest. Inside, the mirror was whole again. A child stood in front of it, his back to Alex. Small, still, wearing the same striped sweater. "Who are you?" Alex asked. The boy turned. It was him, younger, pale, his eyes full of tears. "I don't want to be here anymore," the boy whispered. Alex stepped forward. The mirror shattered again, not into glass, but into memories. A scream echoed through the room, sharp, high, real, a child's scream. And suddenly, Alex remembered. A locked room, his mother crying, a man at the door, shouting, blood. He ran downstairs, to the kitchen, to the basement, to the attic stairs hidden behind a false wall in the hallway. He hadn't remembered they existed until now. He climbed. The attic was choked with dust. Shapes lurked under cloth, broken toys, yellowed newspapers. But one thing stood clear, an old mirror, propped against the wall, larger than the others, carved into the wood above it, for him. The glass shimmered. He stepped closer and saw her, Maria, standing behind him. He turned. She wasn't there, but the smell remained, lavender and something burning. A voice came from the mirror. Soft, familiar. "Alexei, you shouldn't have come back." "Why?" he whispered. "Because you promised to forget." He touched the mirror. The attic vanished. He was 6 years old, back in the house, the same room, but everything was bright, warm, clean. His mother smiled, standing in the kitchen, humming. He was a child again. And then the knocking started. Maria froze. "Don't answer," she said. "But Mommy—" "Never go in there. Never, ever go in there." "But I—" "Do not open that door." The illusion shattered. Alex was back in the attic, weeping. The mirror cracked once more. This time there was no reflection, only the door, the one that led back to her, to the thing that waited in the room. And now he remembered. He had opened the door. He had let it in, and his mother died screaming. Alex no longer questioned the impossible. He stopped trying to rationalize the mirror, the diary, the door that shouldn't be there. The logic he clung to like driftwood had rotted through. All that remained was the truth he'd buried decades ago, and the room that kept trying to show it to him. But truth came slowly, in fragments, in half-remembered screams and the smell of burning, in hands that were once his own, reaching for a doorknob too heavy to turn. He no longer remembered how old he was. The diary had changed again. New entry. Childish handwriting, streaked with something dark. "She made me stay in the mirror, said I was bad. But I only opened it once, just once. She didn't scream at first. Then she screamed forever." He dropped the diary. It landed with a wet sound. The house was decaying now, fast. The paint peeled in wide strips like skin. Mold grew in the corners. Furniture warped. Lights dimmed even during the day.
The fireplace spat cold air. The room upstairs was the only part untouched. Still the same dinosaur wallpaper, still the same red lamp, still the same quiet, as if it were watching.
Alex stayed downstairs, refusing to enter. But the dreams came anyway. He saw his mother. Not the twisted, screaming shadow she'd become, but the woman who had once held him in her arms, kissed his forehead goodnight, and sang lullabies in a trembling voice. And behind her, the mirror. Always the mirror. He called her name once in the dream. "Mom?" She didn't answer, just stared past him, eyes glassy, lips trembling, then whispered, "You weren't supposed to survive." He awoke to find the front door open. The wind had blown in dirt, leaves, something else, something foul and wet, and in the middle of the living room floor was the bear. Its seams had burst, stuffing spilled like organs. A child's drawing was pinned to its chest. Stick figures again. This time 3. One small, one large, one tall and thin with no face. The faceless one had red hands. He began tearing the house apart, clawed through the basement, ripping open crates and walls, pried up floorboards, ripped down the attic insulation. He didn't know what he was looking for, but he knew it was here. And then he found it. Behind a false wall in the attic, a space no larger than a closet, he found a small skeleton curled beneath a rotting blanket. Children's teeth, tiny shoes, a name bracelet still on the wrist. Alexei. He just sat beside the bones for a long, long time, until the whisper came again. "Now, do you remember?" He looked into the mirror and saw himself, present day, sitting beside the body, and next to that reflection stood a boy, 6 years old, smiling. "You did it, Alex," the boy said. "You came back." Alex touched the glass. The boy did not. The mirror shimmered, then showed something new. A man standing at the edge of the forest, a real man, holding a suitcase, approaching the house. Alex tried to scream, tried to bang on the glass. "Don't come in! Don't come in!" But his voice made no sound. Only the boy spoke now. "It starts again." The boy smiled wider. "He'll find the door soon." Alex watched the man approach from the other side of the mirror. He wore a heavy coat, the kind for long travel. His face was drawn, tired but curious. He looked like someone who had been through loss, through isolation, someone who wanted to disappear, just like Alex had, just like the last one. Alex banged on the mirror, tried to scream, to warn, to break the glass, but there was no sound, no cracks. The boy beside him laughed. "You can't stop it," he whispered. "It's his turn now." Alex turned to the attic, tore through it in a frenzy. Pages, photos, anything. There had to be a way to sever the loop, to prevent the man from opening that door. He found the diary again. This time, the pages were blank. He screamed, and then a single word appeared on the last page. "Write." With shaking hands, he picked up a pen. He wrote the truth. Everything. From the first night he arrived to the discovery of the bones, the room, Maria, the door that never belonged. When he was done, the diary closed itself. Downstairs, the front door opened. Footsteps entered. Alex's breath caught.
He felt the new man moving through the house, uncertain, silent. He pictured him pausing in the hallway, maybe looking up the stairs, maybe already feeling the pull. The house began to change again, faster now. The walls peeled back to raw wood, lights flickered in mad rhythms, the smell of rot flooded everything, and the whispers returned. Dozens of voices, some old, some young, some broken, all saying the same thing: "Let us out." Alex ran through the mirror again, found himself in the hallway. Everything was wrong, colors muted, shadows too sharp. Time felt stretched. The door was at the end of the hallway again, open. The room inside glowed red. He stepped in. Now the walls pulsed like flesh. The bed was gone. The toys melted into the floor. The mobile spun, even though there was no air. And at the center of the room was the boy. Only now, he wasn't a boy. His smile was too wide, his arms too long, his eyes black and endless. "You're part of the house now," it said in his voice. "I'm not," Alex whispered. "You are. You always were." The thing pointed behind him. Alex turned and saw himself. The man who'd entered, standing at the hallway's edge, eyes wide with terror. "Don't!" Alex screamed, but the man took a step closer, then another. He was looking at the room, drawn in, confused. "Stop!" Alex shouted. He hurled himself toward the man and passed through him like air. The man blinked, shivered, stepped back, paused, then shook his head and turned, walking away from the room, down the stairs, out the door. Gone. The red light dimmed. The boy, the thing, hissed. "No," it said. He left. Alex stared at it. "Why do you need us?" The smile twisted. "Because forgetting is worse than dying. You forgot her. You forgot me. But I remember everything." Alex stepped forward. "I remember now." And in that moment, the room cracked. The red light shattered. The ceiling peeled away. The boy screamed. Alex felt his skin burn, his body split, his soul stretch, but he didn't stop. The last thing he saw before the room exploded into light was the mirror shattering, and his mother smiling finally. Silence. But not the same suffocating silence Alex first met when he arrived at the house. This was different. It wasn't hostile or heavy. It was final. A silence that followed a scream, the kind that settled over everything after something has stopped breathing. Peaceful in its own strange way. He stood in the ruins of what once was the room. There were no walls now. No red lamp, no child's bed or toys. Nothing remained except a flat emptiness beneath his feet and the vague shimmer of memory in the air. Above him, suspended like a wound in the sky, hung the mirror, cracked, humming faintly, reflecting a version of the world that had moved on without him.
Alex looked at his hands. They were solid. He felt real, present. But the house around him wasn't. Not anymore. It was breaking apart at the seams, returning to the shape it had before the door appeared, before the boy in the sweater, before Maria screamed. Only memory remained. And the mirror. He approached it carefully, no longer afraid, but cautious. Something inside told him this was the last moment that mattered. As he placed his palm against the fractured glass, the air pulsed, the silence deepened, and the world shifted. Suddenly, he was back in the living room. Bright daylight poured through clean windows. The air was warm, carrying the scent of old wood and something floral, lavender, maybe. The furniture had returned to its original state. The fireplace sat dormant. There was no rot, no shadows waiting at the corners. On the coffee table rested the diary. He stepped forward and opened it slowly. Most pages were blank, clean, as if freshly bound. But the very last one held a message, written in steady, firm strokes. "You broke the loop, but you are the loop." The words burned into his mind. He closed the diary and looked toward the door. It stood open, not like before, not ominous, just open. Beyond it, he saw a sky he hadn't truly looked at in years. Blue, honest, real. He stepped outside. The breeze was gentle. The trees rustled. For a moment, it felt like a normal day, like any other. And then he saw the man. The same man from the mirror, from the vision. He sat on the front porch steps, coat loosened, face calm. Not afraid. Not yet touched by the house. Just tired, quiet, reflective. Alive. Alex approached him, unsure if he was visible now. He half expected to be nothing more than a ghost now, a whisper. But as he drew near, the man lifted his head and looked directly at him. Their eyes met, and the man nodded, slowly, as if he understood everything without needing words. Alex stood still, not speaking. There was nothing left to say. The man rose after a moment, picked up his suitcase, and walked away. Not into the house, but back toward the path, toward the road that led away from the forest. Away from the trap. The door had not claimed him. Not this time. The curse, it seemed, was broken. Alex turned and looked at the house. It stood quiet and still. Whole. No longer hungry. But somewhere, deep beneath the floorboards, behind the walls, or tucked into the foundation, something remained. Not a demon. Not a ghost. Just a record. A scar. A bear with one button eye still waited in the dark. And in a drawer near the kitchen sink, the diary remained, its pages blank once more, patiently waiting for the next name to be written.